Hey, hey,
Should I put it around?
whatever you want to do.
I'm hold on. I was trying to use my new tripod that
But
I got directly from China. So I think I might just hold it. That's probably what's gonna have to happen. And there.
ta-da.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. Let me put my headphones on.
All right.
I want to be technologically savvy,
If anything, that's what this should do for you.
but I'm not.
Well, what else do you have to do with your time right now?
I'm listening to a Spotify playlist. I was actually about to watch a Netflix show called The Kingdom, which is
Mm-hmm.
like feudal Japan with zombies.
Okay.
So I was about to watch that, and I was like, "No, wait! I
I
can't
would have been
watch that
like
right now."
sitting here like,
Yeah, no, I can't watch that right now. How you doing?
After. I'm good. How are you?
How's the weather over there?
Today was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like 76. Are you guys like nasty hot already down there?
It's around this time. It's always muggy, but today I took the kids and the family. We went to like a trail, and it was breezy, and we saw gators, and of course we saw gators, and yeah, it was nice. But you know what?
In
Orlando's
Miami?
actually no, Orlando. I'm in Orlando,
Okay. Oh,
Orlando,
okay.
Florida. It's actually it gets colder over here.
Mm,
It stays colder than it would in Miami.
mm,
Miami sucks. Miami, you'll get like maybe one day of like
mm-hmm.
nice, and then like by noon, it's back to normal. Whereas over here, you'll have like the whole week, and it'll be nice, and you can put on a nice jacket, and it's cool.
Nice. I lived in South Florida for like 8 years, so I know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. You ready to start? Or
Yeah,
all
ready.
right. So this is Lara, aka the Sound Sommelier, talking with MC Seven Star. First question I always ask in my interviews: what's your earliest memory of hip hop?
I wrote about it. I wrote a verse about my earliest memory of hip hop. I'll try to make it short. I was
You don't have to make it
maybe
short. We got time.
oh okay, all right. So then I was born in New York
Oh.
in Manhattan, but my family lived in New York. I mean in the Bronx, but I believe my mom for some reason had to go to that hospital. I don't remember the exact story, but anyway, when I was 3, she picked up and moved to Puerto Rico because her sister, my aunt, moved over there and was like, "Hey, this is the place to be. Come, you know." Puerto Rico in the '80s, and so we moved
Mm-hmm.
there, and we were. I think it was like maybe the third place we had lived. So I may have been like maybe 9, 8, 9, something like that. I don't remember. I'm not good with dates or ages. But my mom had a roommate, and he had a son coming for the summer. And one morning I woke up and I hear this boom, 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 and it's a different kind of sound that I hear in my house because my mom, maybe a little bit of salsa here and there, but mainly my mom was listening to like Bette Midler and like Barbara Streisand, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was different, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. The kid is here. The kid is here." And I knew he was going to be older. He was like maybe 13 or something. And I knock on the door, and he opens it up, and he was listening to the Fat Boys, and uh, it was just so. And anyway, so he's combing his hair. He thinks he's Papi Chulo smooth, and he's asking me questions about how far does it get, or how far is it to get to the beach, just regular questions. Are there girls around here? And what do I know? I'm 8 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just looking at him, and he's pretty much getting himself ready in the mirror, but at the same time he's singing along with the song, and I'm just watching him, and I'm like, "How do you do that?" And he's like, "How do you do what?" And I'm like, "How do you sing along with it?" He's like, I don't know. I know the song." He's like, "But it's so fast." To me, it was like the fastest singing. To me,
Mm-hmm.
it was just fast singing, and I was just floored at how he could do whatever that artist was doing. And I just, me being an only child, I was like, yeah, I'm right. Yeah, right. I bet you can't do it with the volume down, you know? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So he kneels down, goes to the old school stereo system and starts lowering the volume, but little by little, slowly, while
Mm-hmm.
he's reciting the lyrics until he gets all the way down to nothing. And then he recites the lyrics for like a good 2, 3 seconds and then starts putting it up slowly. And I'm just like, yo, like it's possible. Like it was like the most incredible thing. And that was it. So I heard hip hop and I saw hip hop in that form for the first time. And then for the first time, I think shortly thereafter, I decided that I wanted to try to turn on the radio. I had a radio in my
Mm-hmm.
room. I just never had any interest turning it on. I would go outside, play toys, you know what I mean? But after that, it was like, I need to find that. I want to find that. I don't know what it
Did
was.
they have like a hip hop radio station in Puerto
They
Rico
just had
or?
radio stations, and I think when I was cruising around, I don't know if it was the first time, I can't remember, but I know that one of the times that I was looking on the radio, I remember hearing Salt and Pepper Push It. And my mom came home, and funny enough, I didn't really know what it was talking about, but I had like an
Mm-hmm.
inclination of what might be happening. So I had to turn it off as soon as she started like coming down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can't be having my mom listen to bullshit. So I turned it off. But that was my first, and that was it. I was in love after that. The thing is, in Puerto Rico, I think it's probably still the same. Whereas you get things months later.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in the know, then you're not really listening to it. You're not checking for it. So the hip hop that I was privy to over there was like Vico C and Ruben DJ and Lisa M and the hip hoppers in the 80s from Puerto Rico. And then, the occasional super pop mega hit, like, I don't know, later on was what, Hammer or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Slowly, I didn't really, really like dive hardcore deep into hip hop until I got to Miami, and a friend of
Which was
mine who
when.
was, I would have to say, man, again, I'm not good with. I
You
moved
remember
to
how old
Miami.
you were?
I was in the middle of eighth grade, so I
Okay.
started half the year in Miami. It was horrible, horrible. But a friend of mine who was a friend of mine from childhood, but he ended up moving away from Puerto Rico, and we met up again. He was listening to hip hop. This was early 90s, like hardcore. And it was just like, as soon as he just cracked the door a little bit, I was like, look, give me. And I just went insane. It was like, I would buy shit. I didn't even know what it was. I would
Mm-hmm.
just buy it. I didn't care. That's a dope cover. Who is this? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So, and yeah, that was my first experience. Yeah.
So, well,
Hold on a second. My, my,
yeah.
my, my son. Yeah. Thomas, you're going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You better stop. Anyway,
How old is he?
I have three that live with me. In total, I have four. I have
Mm-hmm.
um, my son Julian, which is my son from my wife.
Mm-hmm.
He just turned 8. My daughter's gonna turn 8 in August, and my other son who lives here, Thomas, who's spitting out water and
Mm-hmm.
distracting everybody while they watch Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
He is 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And my oldest from my wife his name is Zach. He lives with his dad, but he is 13, actually going on 14.
Cute. I was gonna say my son's 4 and he does the
He's
same kind of
adorable.
thing. So, thanks.
He's adorable.
It's the
I
only
wanna
reason he's still alive.
I wanna squeeze him. Is that weird?
Maybe one day you will.
Kind of. What is it about kids? I don't know if you have the same thing, but what is it about kids at a certain age, from like baby to like a certain age, that their cheeks smell so wonderful? Is
I
that
don't
just
know.
me?
No, it's not at all.
Isn't
I used
it?
to think it was like baby powder or something, but it's
No,
not.
it's just baby smell.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah, he
they
still
still
has
have
that a
it.
little bit.
Yeah, no, they still have it. I heard it goes away. I'll be sad that day.
Hmm. Um, what was the scene like in Miami when you moved there? Did you get to experience it? Because you kind of said that a childhood friend of yours was there, and you just kind of.
Yeah. So when I first arrived in Miami, I wasn't happy. I thought I would be,
Mm-hmm.
because once I arrived, you know, because the way it worked was 3 years old, moved from New York to Puerto Rico, and then around 12 maybe I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Miami. But actually, I had a 6 month stint where I stayed in Arizona with my dad, because my dad was supposed to look after me for a year.
Okay.
But it was bad. Not it was just bad because I was an only child, and he's already developed a new family. He had a son, he had a daughter. He was a Jehovah's Witnesses. The whole family was a Jehovah's Witness, and it was just a complete like shift for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
only ended up staying 6 months, because I was all like, "Mommy, I miss you. Mommy, I love you," sleeping with her picture. Imagine
Oh.
an only child for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pain in the ass child, though. But
Right.
when you're separated from your comfort, you
Yeah, the
know,
only person you know. Yeah.
it was like, and so I ended up coming after 6 months. And when I first came to Miami, it was horrible. Like, what was I listening to on the radio? It was Mindy, Wake Up and Go with Mindy and Bo on Power 96. And like
Uh-huh.
every morning it was, Doo Brown, and it was just so weird. And I thought I would love it before I started school. I thought I would love it because everyone spoke Spanish.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like little things. Mall of the Americas. There was a mall in Puerto Rico called Plaza Las Americas. And then there was a supermarket called Pueblo. So I was like, Publix, Pueblo. Oh, this is going to be great. And then I get on the
Mm-hmm.
bus and it's Doodoo Brown. And it's not nothing. I don't have anything against, I don't know, booty music. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
Miami's,
Miami
one of
base.
one of
Yeah.
Miami's, staples. But
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't get with it. And then the worst part about it, I think, for me was, and by now I have forgotten your question, so I'll just keep going to
It's fine.
less
Do you want me to
embarrassing stuff.
remind you, or you want to just keep
Let me
going?
just finish this point, because then I'll
Right.
forget that, and then I'll look even worse.
That's
Um,
fine.
um, the worst part about it was like the Hispanic on Hispanic prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. I've never. I had a Nicaraguan brothers in Puerto Rico that I was friends with.
Mm-hmm.
Across the street lived a Dominican kid who we fought, but we were like boys, like till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard stuff like, like what Puerto Ricans were dumb, right? And Nicaraguans were Indians, arrow, that they would call them tira flechas. And it was just all of it. It was just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks, right? I mean, from Miami, my first experience, and it's like I'm from Miami, but there was so many good experiences. But what was your question again?
What was the scene like back then?
Oh, that
You
was the
kind of touched
scene.
on it with the Miami base.
Yeah, that was the scene when I got there. But lo and behold, the more people I started to meet, I started to understand that there was actually a scene there, and eventually I started hearing and meeting up with MCs, who eventually helped me, like,
Mm-hmm.
help my style and be the person that I am, person and artist
Mm-hmm.
that I am.
When did you start writing?
I started writing. Okay, so it was like maybe a year after I first heard, and this was in Puerto Rico. So my first rhyme, me and a friend that I had, his name was Ruben. We liked hip hop, and what we did see was like, Kid and Play, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
Hammer's first album, like that's what you would hear in Puerto Rico. You're not really hearing like the stations playing Run DMC or EPMD or any of the good stuff, that I eventually had to retroactively go back and listen to. But yeah, like I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I hear my kids, and then I'm like, they're about to fight.
Sorry.
They're about to fight. No, no, they're not fighting. I'm sorry. What were you? I'm sorry. It's so weird to like.
It's
Next time I'll
so fun.
conduct the interview from the car.
I
I'll be
mean,
in the dark.
whatever you want to do.
Going like,
Um, when did you start writing?
Okay, so yeah, right. So my first verse, I wrote it because a friend of mine and I were like, we should form a group, and well, what should we call it? And he's like, you should rap because you know English, and I'm like, yeah, okay, and we should. What do we call it? I'm like, think twice. Let's call it think twice. You know, because when they look at us, they have to think about both of us. Like, it was just ridiculous.
I mean,
Yeah. So I wrote. It was house too because that I would hear a lot, you
hmm
know. And so the vibe, I don't even remember it, but I know it was about dancing, which I did not know how to do and still don't know how to do. And it was just like, get your body on the floor, move around if you don't want more, that nonsense.
hmm
And he was the dancer. So he was my backup dancer and I
I
was I
dig
was
it.
the MC. And then my first performance ever was on a public access TV show in Puerto Rico,
Okay.
and they would have like artists come and you get in a line, and if they had time you would be able to make it. If you got there early, then you'd be able to have a set. I think I may have peed in my pants a little bit, just a little bit, not a lot, a little bit, like a
Uh-huh.
drop.
Have to make a show. Uh-huh.
Right, I had to hold it in. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. I'm the MC. I should have grabbed the mic with the cord, but I wanted to
hmm
be super fresh. So
hmm
I grabbed the one without the cord, but my dancer should have had the one without the cord. So
Right.
in his dance, he gets tangled up in shit. He almost trips.
No.
But we were famous for like a week, so that was cool. But yeah,
It's
I
more
wrote
than
my first
15
rhyme
minutes.
like in 19, I don't know, 80 something, probably something like
Did
that.
your mom support you in your choices to kind of pursue
She didn't
music?
know.
Or, okay.
She didn't know. I mean, it's I never had that like. It's not that I didn't have communication with her, but there was stuff that as a kid
You never had
I
to
was
show.
never inclined to actually tell her about because I didn't think she'd care maybe, or that she would be interested, or it'd be just one of those things that a kid says to their parent that the parent's like, oh, that's nice. I just thought maybe that's what would eventually happen. But
Mm-hmm.
the way that I wrote the verse, because I think the whole idea of forming a group came after like one summer, maybe I was like 10, where I had these friends that came from, I think, Germany, and they had a brother. So it was the father who lived here with the stepmom, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the father had to have his sons come from Germany, where they stay with their mom, to come and visit. So they knew German, they knew Spanish, they knew English. And they had an older brother. He was already a teenager. And I remember going into the house. It was across the street in Puerto Rico. I lived in Santurce. And we went there to get something to drink. And I heard music playing from the big brother's room. And then I met the big brother. And I was just like, hey, you make music? He's like, yeah. And I walked into his room and he just had like keyboards and the computer set up. And I'm like, can I hear some? And he's like, sure. And he plays some. And I'm like, can you make me music? He's like, for what? You know? And I'm like, because I, I want to write a song. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, you have a song? And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't. He's like, can you make me music? He's like, if you have a song, yeah, I could give you music. But I think he was more like, all right, sure,
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
kid, friend of my stepbrother's. So like maybe like, I don't know, a few days later, I knock on his window, and these windows are like hurricane proof windows. So they
Mm-hmm.
shut like into that little latch right there. So it's like a shield.
Mm-hmm.
And I open it, he opens it up. I'm like, I have a song. And he's like, like looking through the window, he's like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are, oh, I have a song. He's like, okay. He lets me in and I show him the song a cappella. And he's like, I think he just gave me throwaways, like he just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, see this one. And I'm like, yeah. The first one that I hear, I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I show my friend, and that's how that song came together. Because he was like, and he was like doing the moves, and the kid and play putting the leg through the whole thing. He knew how to do
Mm-hmm.
all them shits. But yeah, that's the story. And then I didn't do anything after that. I did that and got the 1 week of fame at the private
Mm-hmm.
Catholic school that I was going to, and that's it until I came to Miami, and then I started going to church. It was church that
How
made me.
funny how many stories start with church.
It always does, because you know why? At the church, if it's a good church, they'll they want to utilize the flock's gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll seek it out, you know. So they seek it out and they bring it out, and they brought it out. So they were like, let's have a talent show. And I'm like, I know how to rap. And then I taught some other kids like that how to rap too. And we formed a makeshift group to just do like a talent show.
Amazing.
And we didn't have a beat. This is so stupid. We didn't have a beat. How are we going to perform with no beat?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to run to this mall called Miracle Mile, right? And we ran. The church was like 15-minute walk. So we're running. We go with like this girl that we knew. She was hip hop. She was more hip hop than us. She dressed it like she knew it and everything. And I had a little crush on her for a while there. But she went and she got, I know you love Gangstar. She got Gangstar's Dwick maxi single with Take It Personal.
Mm-hmm.
And we did our song to Take It Personal. So the second performance that I did was at church to Take It Personal.
Amazing.
Instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out later, a friend of mine who was also in the group, his name was Juan. He just took one of, I hope he never catches wind. Actually, no, he admitted it to us, so it's fine. He tricked us because we didn't know, you know, we're still kids. He made us think that he wrote a verse when in reality he just stole Chip Foo's verse from Fushnickets.
Oh no.
From like one of the songs that aren't like, you know, banging.
Well
yeah, from the album, like yeah. So that's the story.
So where, if you fast forward a little bit, when you started writing rhymes more regularly, where did you draw like inspiration from? What did you like to write about?
Well, I mean, so for the first one was just dancing because that was like the thing to do, and I was just starting to get into girls. And then the second one was about, you know, spirituality. It was kind of like doing the Christian music vibe, you know, where you like take this vibe, whether it be this punk rock group's vibe or this hip hop group's, if you want to be like a conscious rapper, you can find every kind of vibe in Christian music that was taken from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was just doing that, kind of like trying to fit in. And it's funny too, because I used to go to a private Catholic school, and the class that I got like straight A's in was religion, because I just made that shit up. How can you not catch an A if you're just, unless they're asking for specific details, but they're not doing that in elementary school. They're asking you like spirituality questions and Jesus and what did he do for us and you know that kind of thing.
What does he mean to you? Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was acing that shit. So when I got to Miami and I started going to, it was an evangelist church, you know, the laying of the hands and you know the speaking in tongues and that sort of thing. So it was the same thing. I just started writing about that, and I called the group, I think Twice too. But I changed the meaning. It was like, think twice. You can either choose the devil or you can choose God. And so, yeah, so I moved from house into gospel rap.
All right.
And then, so that, I mean, there was really I didn't really have any, I didn't have any actual, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like style influences. You know, like, it was just, I'm going to rap. You know what I mean? And I liked rap, but I didn't have anyone that I was like, I don't think I was copying or like following in their footsteps. I think my biggest influence, once I really started getting into actually listening to, rather than just writing it to look cool and be popular, I started listening to it and started to understand that this shit was like an art form. And I started looking at these MCs like they were kind of like modern day prophets. You know what I mean? And I still do, even though once you start to find out the humanity, you know what I mean, of your favorites, and you start to see how kind of like some of them are assholes, some of them are dicks, some of them are selfish, some of them are just like womanizing creeps. Like,
yeah, as a journalist and a fan, I fully understand what you're talking about.
But in essence, If I use the word prophet or saint or any of that, the saints and the prophets were all just regular ass fucking people, and they did creepy ass shit. Even the ones now, we're not gonna get into that, but we could, Gandhi and like you can talk, you can pinpoint every single person that you find to be like this amazing, like person that could never be faulty. No, they were, or they turned into later on. But anyway, yeah. So Pharaoh. If I had to put the biggest influence on me, it would have to be Pharaoh. He's top 3. There's no taking him down. From what, 1990, 89? He was doing that shit. From then, him.
He's a good dude too. So.
Oh yeah, he seems like a good dude. You've met him?
I interviewed him years
ago.
Ago.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, he's one of my favorites. Organized Confusion. I played the shit out of every single one of their albums. My favorite.
I feel like everybody did.
Oh my God. The Extinction Agenda was a mind-altering album for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've regularly seen your music labeled as conscious. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. But it's such a silly
that?
Category if you think about it. Conscious music. What is that?
Right. Because I was going to say, like, what does that mean to you?
If I like to take things as literal, right? Without because it helps to not put like extra meaning into shit when it doesn't need it. So conscious music, when I hear somebody saying I'm conscious, I do conscious hip hop or conscious music, I think of Bob Marley. So I'm like, thanks. If that's what he's one of the first people, if not the first person to ever say it.
Right.
Of what he does. It's music that you can nod your head to and groove out to and chill to, but guess what? The shit has an underlying message and it's not like down your throat. So if you're saying I'm conscious, that's cool. And that's good, isn't it? I mean, don't you want to be conscious? Right? Even like the most derogatory, like worst kind of music that only speaks of like materialistic things and degrading women, it's still conscious. They're conscious of what they want. They're conscious of the world they exist in. They're conscious of some women are this and some women are that. But they're not trying to, but they are. They are also trying to give you lessons in life and watch out for these kinds of people.
Yeah, but you would never call that subconscious.
Why not?
I mean, sorry, not you. I mean, like the universe.
Oh, no, right? The universe, just me. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, in essence, if you took the shit literal, everyone is conscious. Everyone's conscious of what they're doing in their life. They're not, even people who aren't really, like, trying to change the world, per se, like I wrote a song called Death, or The Philosophy of Letting Go, and I just read a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and that should just change my life on my perspective on death. And I thought maybe I'd share what I learned and how I perceived it. So I'm trying to help people like maybe get a little bit, get rid of their fear of dying, right? Whereas somebody else trying to like, trap music is trying to put somebody on how not to like follow in the shit that they're still doing. And they're telling you, don't do this that I did yesterday at this time. Don't do this ever, but I'm going to keep doing it. That's still conscious music.